Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well. Can I just say a huge thank you to you for keeping going with your work and cooperating last time with the video lesson. I know you're sick of hearing my voice now at this stage on these videos, but we have to kind of keep things moving. Okay, so while you're getting out your homework and your notes and all that ready, because we're going to quickly correct the homework, today's focus, we're going to have a quick recap on what we've done so far, because it is important to stay up with what we've done, and then we're going to look at Krebs cycle and you're going to get a small amount of homework then. Okay, so firstly let's start with the quick recap. So we are talking about respiration. If we have a cell like this over here and we have a nucleus, and then throughout the cell we have these mitochondria all around, well, they are responsible for a huge amount of energy, but stage one occurs in here, in the cytosol, okay, of the cell, and that's the cytoplasm minus the cell organelles. Okay, so that's what we've established first. So as we mentioned last week, when there's a blood supply, a small capillary here that is carrying food, eventually it'll get towards the cell and it'll bring in glucose in here. But glucose we can't really do too much with. We need to start to break it down. So that's kind of what respiration is, the controlled release of energy from food using oxygen. So if I start up here with glucose, and glucose is a 6 carbon sugar. Okay, I'm just going to write 6C for short here. We need to break that down. So if you want to just picture 6 circles like this, and all of those are stuck together, that's what glucose is. So we need to break that down right through the middle to make 2 3 carbon molecules. So when that happens, we get our 3 carbons, which then we should know is called pyruvate. Okay, pyruvate. Now that just doesn't happen by magic. What needs to happen is energy needs to be released, because we're breaking down glucose, which can give us some energy. So what is released is 2 ATPs. Okay, considering we make millions of these, 10 million a second, this isn't a lot of energy, but it's a small amount. So 2 ATPs and water. So remember, water is a waste product of respiration. We breathe it out in our water vapor. On the other side here, we also have NADH, okay, which is also released. So you can be asked, okay, what is the 2 3 carbon compound? What's released? We have NADH, ATP. What's the name of the first stage? Glucose. Where does it occur? Cytosol. Okay, so that was the quick recap on what we've done so far. I'd urge you to go back over that later. Okay, so this was our questions. So we had distinguish between aerobic and anaerobic respiration and write a balanced equation to summarize aerobic respiration. Okay, well, first, aerobic respiration is the controlled release of energy from food using oxygen. Anaerobic is release of energy from food without using oxygen. Okay, that's the difference. Then we have a balanced equation to summarize aerobic respiration. Okay, so glucose is C6H12O6. We also need 6O2 because we breathe that in the presence of enzymes. Okay, what's our waste product? Okay, so we have oxygen, we have glucose. What do we release? So we release 6H2O plus 6CO2. Okay, and that's your balanced equation there, which we did the last time. Okay, so let's just check in on that there so far. So here's our marking scheme. So aerobic respiration requires oxygen, anaerobic respiration does not. I know I gave you the full answer there, but it's important to kind of guarantee your marks. That's why I give you the detail. So 3 marks there. There's our balanced equation there. Okay, so if you get half this side right, so all the letters, all the numbers have to be right on both sides to get 6. If you have this side right and this side wrong, even a tiny little mistake, you'll get 3. If you make a mistake here, 0. Okay, so that's how it works. Okay, so going back here, where in the cell does this stage occur? So we're talking about the first stage of respiration here, which I skipped by, which I shouldn't have done. So we read the tops of the first questions. So answer the following questions in relation to the first stage of respiration. Okay, so that's what we're focused on. Where does the cell kind of go through this? And that is in the cytosol. So cytosol. During this stage, a small amount of energy is released. Explain the role of ADP in relation to this released energy. Okay, so let's have a look there at our marking scheme. So we had cytoplasm or cytosol. Stick with the cytosol. The examiner will know the right one. That will just guarantee your marks. So ADP, what's its role? So you need 3 roles here. So it uses the energy, it combines with phosphate to form ATP. ATP stores energy. It's a high energy bond, energy transferred by ATP. Now, this is just little short bullet points here that are very hard to remember. So if this was me in the exam, I'd be drawing it out. Okay, you have your adenine. I'm going to run out of space here, I think. No. Okay, adenine. Then we have our ribose, which is our sugar part. Just to show the examiner that you know what you're talking about, we have 2 phosphates. Okay, this is ADP. Okay, so think about it. So what does it do? So it allows another phosphate to join to make ATP. Okay, there we have that. Okay, combines with phosphate. There in one sentence I've hit 2 things. In between the third and second bond, we have a high amount of energy. Okay, which is here, high energy bond, which can break off to become ADP again and then release some energy. Okay, so that's sometimes how a diagram can help you explain it. Okay, back we go. So we have, what is the final product of this stage under aerobic conditions? Okay, so we have now made our ATP, we've released that. So our final product is our pyruvic acid or pyruvate. Okay, so that's the final product of glycolysis. If conditions in the cell remain aerobic and the product you've named in 3 is used for the second stage of respiration, where does this second stage take place? So second stage occurs in the mitochondrion. Okay, so we'll look at that a little bit more today. If conditions in the human cell, example muscle, become anaerobic, so we don't have that much oxygen in our body anymore, the product named in 3 is converted to another substance. Name the other substance. Okay, so I want to just go back to that. So it's asking us here. So if we have broken down our glucose down into pyruvate, we have anaerobic condition in a human muscle. Lactic acid builds up, and that's where our muscle cramps come from. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at that question there again. So if conditions in the cell remain, if conditions in the human cell become anaerobic, the product named in 3 is converted into another substance. Name the other substance. So that's your lactic acid. Okay, make sure you read this. Sometimes people will say alcohol because they think of yeast, but it's giving you an example here. Okay, lastly, when the substance in 5 builds up, so our lactic acid builds up in the blood, person is said to be in oxygen debt. This debt must eventually be paid. Suggest that the debt is paid. Okay, really strange way to word the question, but it's challenging you. So if we have a build-up of carbon dioxide and lactic acid in the blood, then what do we need to do? We need to breathe more. So this will trigger deeper and a higher breathing rate. So deeper breathing and a higher breathing rate. So let's have a look at this one here. So there we go. Increased breathing, deeper or faster. You need to take in oxygen. So that was your answer there. Hopefully you done okay there. Okay, so I want to just introduce these 2 questions here. So we have a little bit we can do so far, and some we'll hopefully be able to do by the end of the class. So suggest an advantage of using ATP as an energy store in cells. We should know that, so that it's quick and easy, it's plentiful, it's readily available to use. Name 2 processes requiring ATP that occur in cells. Okay, they're keeping it vague here. So processes, cells. So we have plant and animal. The 2 big processes in both are photosynthesis for plants, photo S for short, and we have respiration for animals and plants. That's important. So plants will go through respiration and photosynthesis because they make the food, then they need to break it down. Letter C, name 2 substances other than carbon dioxide into which pyruvate may be broken down under anaerobic conditions in cells. Okay, so it's not telling you in human or in yeast cells there. So hopefully we should know that. I'm not going to give that away. Then D, what is the name of the 2 carbon compound into which pyruvate is broken down under aerobic conditions? And then briefly describe the fate under aerobic conditions of the 2 carbon compound referred to in part D. Okay, so we actually do know these. So if we go back to here, where's it gone to? Here, okay, so this is after we've made our pyruvate in glycolysis. So pyruvate is our 3 carbon molecule. It then gets broken down into acetyl-CoA or acetyl-coenzyme A. Okay, this is when there's oxygen available, so acetyl-CoA is made, and then it is going now to enter Krebs cycle, which we'll look at today. Okay, so if we take a look at what they're asking us here again. Briefly describe the fate under aerobic conditions of the 2 carbon compound referred to in part D. So that was our pyruvate. So, or our acetyl coenzyme A. So acetyl coenzyme A is then going to enter Krebs cycle and release more energy, which we'll look at today. Okay, this is another question, a longer version. So name the 3 carbon molecule that's intermediate compound between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So that's giving you the clue. If you don't understand this second bit, 3 carbon molecule. What's a 3 carbon molecule? That's pyruvate or pyruvic acid. What name is given to the biochemical pathway by which this intermediate compound is produced? So where does pyruvate come from? That's our glycolysis. Okay, now this one is detailed, which hopefully we'll understand by the end of today. What happens to the intermediate compound referred to in 1 above? Okay, so pyruvate, when oxygen is available and is used in the breakdown of glucose. So then we need to talk about Krebs cycle and electron transport system. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to focus on Krebs cycle today. And again, here's your question. The reason why I'm showing you this is because, again, they repeat themselves over and over again. What is produced by, What is produced from the intermediate compound referred to in 1 above when oxygen is not available in muscle and yeast? Muscle, lactic acid; yeast, alcohol, and also carbon dioxide. Okay, so there's a quick overview of some of the questioning that you can be asked. Okay, so let's go. So please take down notes. This is up on Seesaw, but maybe wait till the end. So this fella here, having a great old time, is called Hans Krebs. Hans Krebs discovered the reactions that acetyl coenzyme A entered and won the Nobel Prize in 1953. Okay, so you do need to know his name, Hans Krebs. So just to give you a quick overview here. So again, if we have a cell, there's the nucleus, we have our mitochondrion. Okay, stage 1 occurs in the cytosol, stage 2 occurs in the mitochondrion. This is what it looks like in real life. Okay, and you inherit your mitochondrion from your mother's side. Okay, they're maternally passed down. Okay, so that's what a real mitochondrion looks like. Here's the diagram representation. Okay, so Krebs cycle occurs in the lumen of the mitochondrion. Okay, if you remember from when we did blood, and if I'm just cutting straight through, we'll call this a vein here because of the thin walls. So if I'm cutting through the middle of a vein here and looking from the side, the middle away from the edges is called the lumen. Okay, same here, this middle part of the mitochondrion is called the lumen. So Krebs cycle occurs in the lumen. Okay, so what we're going to have a look at first is the bullet points. So up above we had glucose, it released ATP. In glycolysis, it also released NADH. Then we had pyruvate. Pyruvate, if there is oxygen present, will make acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, then that is going to enter this Krebs cycle. Okay, and remember the whole purpose of respiration is to release energy from food. So we're trying to make this energy. Okay, so we have our bullet points. So acetyl coenzyme A goes through a cycle of reactions. Acetyl CoA is converted to carbon dioxide and hydrogen. We have high energy electrons and protons, H plus, are released to form several NADHs. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So far, acetyl CoA is converted into carbon dioxide. There you can see carbon dioxide being released. We also have hydrogen here being released, also here. Okay, and high energy electrons and protons are released. So here's our electrons. The H's are the hydrogen protons to form several NADHs. Okay, so far, what is the product of Krebs cycle? Carbon dioxide, NADH, ATP and water. Okay, so next, ADP is converted into ATP, and again it occurs in the lumen of the mitochondria. Okay, so what I'll need you to do is to take down this diagram from Seesaw, or it's also in your book. I prefer this one, so you can go into the Seesaw PowerPoint, take down your notes there as well here, and I'll go back over it again. It will take a little bit of reading. Okay, so just for your homework, I need you to finish up today in your notes, and you're doing questions 11, 12 and 13 on page 143, so you can start those now. Thanks very much, guys.